Welcome back, Sovereign. You have returned to the frequency of truth. Your presence here confirms that the previous protocols have taken root within your consciousness. You have transcended the baseline reality of the masses, moving beyond the noise of the collapsing matrix. In Transmission 13, we mastered the gray man, the art of social camouflage and remaining undetected within the crowd. But detection is merely the avoidance of a threat. In Transmission 14, we shift our focus from mere avoidance to active construction. We begin the inauguration of the Hidden Fortress. This is the definitive blueprint for building a private empire while the external world remains blissfully unaware of your ascending power. To understand the Hidden Fortress, one must first understand the lethal nature of visibility in the modern era. We are living through a period of terminal systemic desperation. Centralized structures, governments, corporate conglomerates, and globalist financial entities are liquefying under the weight of their own corruption and inefficiency. As they fail, their predatory instincts sharpen. They require fuel to sustain their decaying husks, and that fuel is your productivity, your data, and your autonomy. In their eyes, any individual who displays visible prosperity or independence is a target for extraction. Therefore, the first rule of the architect is this: if they cannot quantify you, they cannot consume you. The Hidden Fortress is not merely a physical location. It is an operational philosophy. It is the deliberate decoupling of your true capacity from public perception. Most men are driven by a primal, ego-driven urge to broadcast their success. They buy the luxury car, they post their gains on social media, they dress in the uniform of the wealthy. In doing so, they build their houses on the surface of a volcanic landscape. They invite envy from the mob and scrutiny from the state. They are visible men, and in a collapsing system, the visible man is the first to be liquidated. The sovereign alpha, however, embraces the gray. He understands that true power is most effective when it is subterranean. The inauguration of your fortress begins with the sanitization of identity. This is a systematic process of auditing every point where your life touches the centralized grid. Every digital footprint, every social interaction, and every financial transaction is a data point that the system uses to build a predictive model of who you are. The Hidden Fortress requires you to become a null variable. You must feed the system just enough mundane data to remain uninteresting. You must look like everyone else, live like everyone else, and blend into the background of the mundane. While the world sees a nondescript individual living a quiet life, the reality is a sovereign architect laying the foundation for a parallel civilization. Consider the physics of silence. In a room full of shouting men, the one who is silent is often the most observant. He hears the tremors in their voices. He sees the cracks in their argument. By withdrawing from the attention economy, you reclaim your most valuable resource, your cognitive focus. The masses are currently suffering from a collective dopamine addiction, constantly seeking external validation through likes, views, and social applause. The architect finds validation only in the alignment of his actions with his long-term mission. Every time you refrain from broadcasting a private victory, you retain the energy of that success. That energy is then recycled back into the construction of your fortress. The architecture of your private empire requires a total death of the ego. This is the hardest stage for most men. Our biology is wired for status signaling. We want people to know we are winning. But in 2026, status signaling is a beacon for predators. To build the Hidden Fortress, you must find satisfaction in being underestimated. You must find joy in the fact that your neighbors, your peers, and even the government agencies tracking your digital shadow think you are average. This strategic underestimation is your greatest tactical advantage. It provides you with the temporal window, the time and space needed to acquire assets, master skills, and build networks without the friction of external interference. The bricks of your fortress are not made of stone and mortar, but of discipline and discretion. The first pillar is information security. You must treat your personal data as a weapon that could be turned against you. The second pillar is financial decoupling. You must move your resources into the dark zones where the system's extractive reach is limited. This means prioritizing physical assets, decentralized protocols, and unrecorded trade. The third pillar is skill sovereignty. You must possess the knowledge to provide for your own energy, food, and security. When you no longer depend on the system for your basic survival, the system loses its primary lever of control over you. We are not just building a hideout, we are building a command center. The hidden fortress is the space where the parallel network begins to form. While the public square is filled with theater and distraction, the true movers of the future are meeting in the shadows. They are forming alliances based on shared values of autonomy and self-reliance. They are creating their own economies and their own codes of conduct. This is the sovereign alpha's version of diplomacy. It is not conducted through televised summits, but through secure handshakes and encrypted protocol. As we conclude this first phase of Transmission 14, look around your life. Identify the leaks. Where is your fortress vulnerable? Where is your ego inviting the gaze of the predator? The work of the architect is never-ending. It requires constant vigilance and an iron will. You are the director of a private reality. The walls are going up. The foundation is solid. The world thinks you are standing still, but you are ascending a staircase they cannot see. Stay silent. Stay lethal. The inauguration is complete. The foundation is laid. The philosophical commitment to silence is sealed. Now, we move from the concept into the cold, hard mechanics of construction. Building the hidden fortress is not a metaphorical exercise. It is an engineering feat of the will. In this second phase of Transmission 14, we dive deep into the specific structural pillars that transform a mere hiding spot into an unassailable stronghold of autonomy. We are deconstructing the three primary layers of active sovereignty: resource hardening, cognitive sovereignty, and the architecture of parallel networks. The first layer of your fortress is resource hardening. In the external world, wealth is designed to be liquid, traceable, and easily confiscated. The banking systems of 2026 are not vaults. They are surveillance nodes. Every dollar you hold in a centralized ledger is a leash. To build the hidden fortress, you must transition your capital from visible to occult. This is the process of turning wealth into gravity, something that exists and exerts force, but cannot be easily seen or touched by the state. This requires a radical diversification into non-perishable physical commodities and decentralized protocols that operate outside the Know Your Customer (KC) panopticon. You are not just saving money, you are storing potential energy that can be deployed at your command without seeking permission from a digital gatekeeper. Resource hardening also means the elimination of systemic dependency. A fortress that relies on an external power grid, a centralized water supply, or a globalized food chain is not a fortress. It is a gilded cage. True subterranean power comes from localizing the loop. You must audit your life and identify every point where you are tethered to a centralized provider. The architect begins the slow, methodical process of acquiring off-grid capabilities. This is not about becoming a primitive hermit. It is about becoming a high-tech sovereign, whether it is independent energy generation, private water filtration, or the mastery of regenerative systems. Every cord you cut from the central matrix is a reinforcement added to your fortress walls. You must become your own utility company, your own central bank, and your own security force. The second layer is cognitive sovereignty. The most dangerous breach in any fortress is not a physical gate, but the mind of its occupant. The system's primary weapon is information warfare, the constant bombardment of your consciousness with manufactured crises, dopamine-driven distractions, and engineered polarities. To maintain the hidden fortress, you must establish a cognitive firewall. This means a total rejection of the mainstream media cycle and the outrage economy. The sovereign alpha does not consume information, he harvests data. You must become a cold, analytical observer of reality, filtering every input through the lens of your long-term mission. If a piece of information does not assist in the construction of your empire or the protection of your legacy, it is noise. Silence that noise. Cognitive sovereignty also requires the mastery of operational security, obsess, in your thinking. You must learn to speak in gray. Never reveal your full intent, even to those you trust. True power is found in the asymmetry of information. When you know more than you show, you maintain the tactical advantage. In the hidden fortress, your thoughts are your most private chambers. You must cultivate a mind that is disciplined enough to hold complex, contradictory truths without the need for external validation. This mental toughness is what allows the architect to endure years of being underestimated and overlooked. While the world is losing its mind in a sea of propaganda, you are sitting in the quiet center of your fortress, calculating the next move. The third and most complex layer is the architecture of parallel network. A lone fortress is strong, but a network of fortresses is invincible. As you build your private empire, you will eventually reach the limits of what one man can achieve in isolation. This is where sovereign diplomacy matures into alliance building. However, these are not the alliances of the old world. There are no treaties, no public ceremonies, and no centralized headquarters. These are shadow alliances, connections made between sovereign individuals who have vetted each other through the shared language of competence and discretion. You are looking for the few, the other architects who have successfully sanitized their identities and hardened their resources. These parallel networks operate on the principle of decentralized resilience. If one node is compromised, the rest remains hidden. We trade skills, resources, and intelligence through encrypted channels and physical dead drop. We build our own internal economy based on trust and tangible value, completely bypassing the inflated debt-driven currencies of the state. This is the birth of the parallel civilization. It is a society within a society, a ghost grid that provides all the benefits of human cooperation without the parasitic extraction of the centralized matrix. The hidden fortress is your entry ticket into this elite network. You cannot join it until you have built your own foundation. You cannot be trusted until you have proven you can maintain silence. As we go deeper into this discussion, understand that the system is aware that anomalies like you exist. They are constantly fine-tuning their sensors to find the quiet ones. This is why your hidden fortress must be dynamic, not static. You must constantly audit your perimeters. Are you becoming complacent? Are you starting to signal your status because you feel secure? Complacency is the silent killer of sovereigns. The moment you think the fortress is done is the moment it becomes vulnerable. The architect is always building, always refining, and always looking for the next point of decoupling. This part 2 has revealed the internal organs of your empire. It is a complex living system that requires constant maintenance and ironclad discipline. You are moving from the what and the why into the how. The weight of this responsibility is immense, which is why 99% of men will never even attempt it. They prefer the safety of the visible herd. But you are not of the herd. You are of the few who understand that the only true safety is found in the shadows of one's own creation. The blueprints are becoming more detailed. The walls are thickening. The system continues to shout at the clouds while you continue to build in the silence of the earth. The anatomy is complete. The pillars are anchored. You have moved through the philosophical fog of the inaugurated silence and navigated the complex mechanics of subterranean power. Now, we reach the final stage of transmission, 14, the sovereign ascension. This is the moment where the hidden fortress ceases to be a project of construction and becomes a platform for projection. It is the realization that you are no longer a fugitive hiding from a system, but an architect presiding over a private reality that is more stable, more powerful, and more real than the decaying matrix outside your walls. This final transition requires a fundamental shift in your perception of time. The centralized world is trapped in the now. It is a frantic, short-term existence driven by quarterly reports, news cycles, and immediate gratification. To maintain the hidden fortress, you must adopt the century mindset. You are building for a legacy that outlasts the current systemic collapse. While the masses are panicking over the fluctuations of a dying currency or the theatrics of a political puppet show, the architect is looking decades ahead. Your fortress is a vessel designed to carry your values, your resources, and your bloodline through the storm of the 21st century. This long-term perspective is the ultimate form of psychological warfare against a system that can only think in seconds. The ascension is characterized by operational calm. As your fortress hardens and your parallel networks solidify, the anxiety that defines the modern human experience begins to evaporate. You are no longer vulnerable to the extraction protocols of the state. You are no longer susceptible to the mental pathogens of the media. You have created a buffer zone between yourself and the chaos. This calm is not a sign of passivity. It is the stillness of a predator that has secured its territory. From this position of strength, your diplomacy becomes truly sovereign. You interact with the world not out of necessity, but out of strategic choice. You provide the system with the bare minimum of your presence, while your true essence remains concentrated within the fortress. However, the hidden fortress is never a place of stagnation. It is a living laboratory. The sovereign alpha uses the safety of the shadows to engage in constant self-optimization. While the world is being physically and mentally degraded by a toxic environment and a predatory culture, you are refining your vessel. You are mastering new technologies, deepening your philosophical understanding, and hardening your physical form. Your fortress is where the new man is being forged. We are the rising sapiens because we have chosen to evolve while the rest of the species is being driven toward devolution. The isolation of the fortress is the heat of the forge. As we bring this transmission to a close, understand the gravity of what you have achieved by simply reaching this level of understanding. Most men will live and die without ever realizing they were in a cage. You, however, have not only seen the bars, but have begun the methodical process of dismantling them and using the metal to build your own stronghold. This is the ultimate act of rebellion. The system can tolerate a rioter. It cannot tolerate an architect. A rioter still acknowledges the system's power by begging it for change. An architect simply ignores the system and builds a better reality next to it. You are the anomaly that the Matrix cannot solve because you have stopped playing their game entirely. But do not mistake this ascension for a final destination. The hidden fortress is a base of operations for a war that has no end date. The forces of centralization will not go quietly into the night. They will continue to innovate in their methods of surveillance and control. Your task is to stay one step ahead, to stay grayer than the grayest man, and to keep your fortress walls growing faster than their sensors can adapt. The price of sovereignty is eternal vigilance. You must audit your life daily. You must look for the small leaks, the subtle ego signals, the convenient digital shortcuts, the emotional attachments to a world that no longer exists. Each of these is a crack that must be sealed. We are now entering a period of silent watching. You have the blueprints, you have the mindset, you have the first layers of the fortress. Now, you must execute in total silence. Do not seek followers. Do not seek applause. The true parallel civilization is being built by men who do not know each other's names, but know each other's frequencies. When the time is right, these fortresses will link up to form the backbone of the post-collapse world. Until then, your strength is your secret. Your success is your silence. Close notes, the architect's vow. You are now a guardian of a private flame. Protect it with your life. The world outside will continue to scream, to burn, and to fail. Let it. Let it. Your responsibility is to the fortress, the legacy, and the rising sapiens within you. You have decoupled from the terminal patient. That is modern society. You are no longer an inmate. You are a free man building in the shadows of a prison. This realization is your ultimate power. Use it wisely. Use it lethally. The offensive continues, but it is an offensive of construction. We are building the world we want to inhabit, brick by silent brick. The system is looking for an enemy they can fight. They will never find you because you have become the ghost in their machine. Thank you for your discipline, Sovereign. This concludes Transmission 14. The blueprints for the fortress are in your hands. The construction is your life's work, but do not become complacent. The world is shifting, and the next stage of our evolution requires us to look even deeper into the mechanics of reality. Transmission 15 is approaching. We will move from the physical fortress to the digital citadel and the quantum exit. The stakes are rising. The system is closing the doors, which means we must build our own. Stay silent. Stay silent. Wait for the next frequency.